Hello everyone, welcome to my guide to Power Patron, the new pendulum archetype coming out in Blazing Dominion. It just got revealed and wow, these cards are unbelievable. I cannot believe it. Konami finally made a good pendulum archetype. It took them so long, and it actually feels like a pendulum deck. It's incredible. So I'm super excited to get into these, so let's get into it. First we have Vidrium, the Power Patron of Chaos Extermination. This card has effects that make it a boss monster and effects that make it a starter. So I'll start with the effects that make it a starter. In the scale, you can destroy this card, and if you do, summon a Power Patron from your hand or grave. Or you can use the effect to destroy this card, and then Power Patrons you control whose original levels is 12 gain 5,000 attack. Both of these effects are really important for the effect to get this card into the extra deck, and when this card is sent to the extra deck, you get to search a Power Patron card from your deck. So basically, you can destroy this card, summon a Power Patron from hand or grave, and then search a Power Patron card, or you can destroy this card, make guys gain 5,000 for the rest of the turn, and then search a Power Patron card. That second effect is really only on there so you can search whenever you want. Which is really nice. I'm glad that they allowed you to do that, because if this card was limited to only summoning, it wouldn't be a one-card combo, which, we love our one-card combos here. And then its boss monster effects is that you can special summon this card from your extra deck or grave by returning a Fusion, Synchro, and Xyz from your face-up field and or grave to the extra deck. And then if this card is if this card is special summoned, you can banish face down all cards from the graveyards, and this card is unaffected by monster effects except Power Patrons. So this card's horrifying if it hits the board, especially if you use that effect to make it gain 5,000, because this thing will be a 10,000 attack beater that is unaffected by monster effects. It's going to on-summon, get rid of everything in your opponent's grave, and it's not that hard to summon. We have our 3 Power Patron extra deck monsters. One's a Fusion, Synchro, and Xyz, which is what you're supposed to shuffle back. But we also have ways to get to Fusions, Xyz, and even Synchros without even summoning those cards. So this card's really easy to get out, to be honest, on like turn 2 or 3. Specifically with Fallen of the Virtuous, we can send our Synchro monster, which is very funny. So yeah, this card's crazy. Phenomenal pendulum monster, one of the best I've ever read. And then after that, we've got our 3 other Power Patron pendulums, which one corresponds to Archmage, one corresponds to Doomsy, and one corresponds to Elvenotes. So we'll start with the Archmage one. When a monster effect activated by your opponent in response to the activation of your Power Patron or Archmage monster effect resolves, you can negate that effect, then destroy this card. So basically, let's say you use Vidrium's effect to search in the extra deck, and your opponent tries to Ash Blossom it. If this card is in the scale on resolution, you'll be able to negate that Ash Blossom. Really solid effect. It's not that crazy in this deck. It's really only good for that exact scenario I just mentioned, but it's not bad in that role. And then its really powerful effects is its monster effects. So first, if this card, you can banish the top 3 cards of your extra deck, banish the top 3 cards of your deck face down, and then destroy this card, and if you do, summon a Nerva, the Power Patron of Creation, from your extra deck. And then if this card is active to your extra deck face up, you can special summon a Power Patron or Archmage monster from your deck or face up extra deck. So this card will summon Nerva, and then it will summon one of your other Power Patrons from the deck. You could also get an Archmage card, but that's more valuable in the actual Archmage deck rather than this deck. But that effect's crazy. Obviously, E-Telly is really strong. But also, you can trigger that when sent to extra deck effect through a bunch of different means, most specifically using this card as link material. So you can do something like summon it off of a Medius, and then link the Medius and this into something else, and then summon another monster from your deck. That's crazy. That's really, really, really strong. This card's very, very strong, very crazy. And then I'll talk about each of the extra deck monsters when they come up. So we're going to talk about Nerva, who, while a card is in the field zone, this card cannot be destroyed by card effects. And once per turn, when you activate an Archmage's monster effect, you can make the activated effect become destroy all cards your opponent controls. So this is broken. It means that, let's say you're going to use Nervado's effect to summon the Nerva, and then you're going to use Nervado's effect on resolution to summon an Archmage from a Power Patron from your deck. Well, you can change that effect to destroying your opponent's entire board. So going second, if you do that, one Nervado represents a big boss monster and a board wipe, which is crazy. So yeah, on summon, you basically just get to board wipe. The one thing I will note about that play is that while it does sound broken, it is pretty easy to stop. Obviously, you can just negate the Nerva or the Nervado, but also Nerva has to directly chain to the Nervado. So if your opponent were to chain any card effect to the Nervado effect to summon, you wouldn't be able to then chain Nerva to blow up your opponent's whole board. So they can dodge it, but they do have to dodge it. If they don't, they're losing the game, probably. After that, we've got two Power Patron Zagrado, which is the Doomsy one. During your main phase, its pendulum effect is you can destroy both this card and one Power Patron or Doomsy monster in your hand or face-up field. Then you can destroy a card on the field. This is really good for getting your other Power Patrons into the extra deck, but also it gets itself into the extra deck, but also non-targeting popping a card is really good. Really, really solid effect. And then its monster effects are you can banish the top 3 cards of your deck face down to destroy this card, and if you do summon a Jupiter, the Power Patron of Destruction, from your extra deck, you might be noticing a pattern. And then you can attach a card from your hand to it. And then if this card is out of your extra deck face up, you can add a Power Patron or Doomsy spell trap from your deck to your hand. So this card also is a really powerful extender, since you send it to your extra deck and then can search any of your Power Patron spells. And it allows you to summon Jupiter, which admittedly is the worst of the extra deck Power Patrons. The only relevant effect on it is that once per turn you can detach a material from this card to summon a Doomsy monster from your grave. Then you can destroy a card on the field. You might note that these are pendulum monsters, so they're probably not going to be hitting the grave particularly often, so that effect isn't going to be live very often, but when it is nice. This card's fine. Does what it does its job of existing, you know? And then moving on to the Elvenotes Power Patron, we've got Power Patron Junordo. If a Power Patron or Elvenotes monster is special summoned to your field while this card is in the Pendulum Zone, you can destroy this card, and if you do, draw 2, then discard 1. A really good way to just dig further into your deck for hand traps. And then on field, you can banish face down the top 3 cards of your deck, destroy this card, and if you do, summon a Junora, the Power Patron of Tuning, from your extra deck. And if this card is added to your extra deck face up, you can add a Power Patron or Elvenotes card from your face up extra deck or grave to your hand. This card's really good for just doing certain combos. Getting cards back to your hand can be very relevant for some of your extra deck plays and whatnot. It's a good effect to have. And then it can also cheat out Junora, the Power Patron of Tuning, which on Synchro Summon, negates the effects of all face-up cards your opponent controls. So you can summon this off of Junordo and then immediately negate everything your opponent has, which is actually broken going second. It means if Junordo resolves and this card resolves, you probably win the game. It also has another effect that you can quick effect activate this. All monsters your opponent controls in the same column as your Elvenotes monsters cannot be used as Fusion, Synchro, Ixies, or Link material until the end of the turn. That effect isn't super relevant because Junordo, unless you run a higher Elvenotes line, the Junordo is your only Elvenotes monster, so you would have to, like, end on Junordo in, like, your opponent's Link zone or something, and then, or in the column of your opponent's Link zone, which will lock them out of using that zone for, like, extra deck linking, but it's not great. You don't really need to worry about that effect. The important effect is you get to negate everything when you summon this card, which is crazy. After that, we've got our the first of our Power Patron spells. We've got Unleashed Power Patron Portal Terminus. You can send a Power Patron monster from your deck or extra deck to the grave. Then you can add a Dark Fairy from your deck to your hand, but you cannot declare attacks for the rest of this turn except with Power Patron monsters. Our search targets for this are Vidrium, which will be able to summon back whatever Power Patron you send, and Medius, which is a starter for the deck. So this can get you 2 really, really powerful cards. And then in the grave, at the start of the damage step, if your Power Patron battles an opponent's monster, you can banish this card from your grave, banish face down that opponent's monster. This means that while this card's in the grave, your opponent just, like, can't attack you. If they try to battle your monsters, they're going to get their monster banished face down, which is the strongest form of removal in this game, so that's horrifying. Really, really scary combat trick. And then after that, we've got 3 of the field spell Null Power Patron Realm Vidria. This card allows you to reveal a Power Patron monster in your extra deck, banish face down 1 card from your hand, then you can add to your hand or special summon a monster from your deck that mentions the revealed monster. So for example, we can reveal Nerva to summon Nervado, we can reveal Junora to summon Junordo, and we can reveal Jupiter to summon Zagrado, right? Obviously. And then monsters your opponent controls lose 100 attack for each banished card, and your opponent cannot activate cards in the grave while you control Nerva, Jupiter, and Junora. So So that last effect is only relevant in some matchups, just because usually you'll be wanting to use your power patrons for other things besides having this effect live. Uh, Notably, they're all 10s, so you can use them to make for Rudross, which is crazy, which is usually better in most matchups than this effect. But when this effect is good, it is really nice to have. Like against Draco Tail, just locking them out of the grave is game winning. So yeah, really, really scary stuff. And obviously this card is also a starter, so it's crazy at 3 as well. So it's just a nice bonus effect to have. And then we've got 3 Medius the Pure, which on summon you can add to your hand or special summon a power patron from your deck. And then in the grave, you can shuffle a monster from your hand or face up field into the deck. And if you do, summon this card, but banish it when it leaves the field. Medius is just a phenomenal starter. It's like a better tour guide, and it gets to bring itself back every turn as long as you don't link it off when you bring it back from the grave. Crazy, crazy card. I got real no notes. This card's this is a phenomenal starter. And then also to pair with it, we've got Thea Realize, which can send a Medius the Pure from your deck to the grave to look as cost, by the way, so it's super hard to interact with. And then you can look at the top card of your opponent's deck and place it on the top or bottom of the deck. And then in the grave, you can target a monster, make it make it whatever type and attribute you want. That doesn't matter unless you're going to play Fiendsmith and make something a light fiend. But this card's really strong. It's just another starter in the deck to get you to Medius. And then we have, finally, 3 Pendulum Treasure, which can add a Pendulum monster from your deck to your extra deck face up. This allows you to trigger any of your Power Patron effects, which is really, really, really good. And that is the last starter of our deck. We have about 18 one-card starters in this deck, which is phenomenal. It's very, very, very strong. And then we have some one-ofs from our various lore archetypes. The first is Archmage Impact Recapture, which can be used if you control, while you control an Archmage monster, this card can be used the turn it was set. And when your opponent activates a monster effect, you can banish a fusion you control until the end phase. And if you do, negate that activation and then destroy that card. So this card doesn't make a lot of sense as to why we're playing it until you look at our extra deck and read Archmage Non Finito, which can summon itself by discarding a spell trap and tributing a level 7 or higher Archmage from our hand or field. This is almost always going to be the Power Patron Nervado. And then on summon allows you to set an Archmage spell trap from your deck. And then once per opponent's turn, you can fusion summon a fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters you control. This card is unbelievable. It lets you set an Archmage spell trap from your deck, which is broken because it lets us set Recapture. And since this card is an Archmage monster, Recapture will be live. So as soon as this card hits the board, we don't have to care about Nibiru. We have a negate for it. And then during your opponent's turn, you can fusion summon, which means that is a Archmage card you can use as a quick effect, which means you can change that effect to blowing up your opponent's entire board. So this turns on Nerva's board wipe effect, which is also crazy. Then moving on, we have the Doomsday cards we're running. 1 Power Patron Doomsday, which locks you into Ixies while it's on the field. Can target an effect monster you control to summon from your extra deck a Doomsday Ixies or Jupiter from your deck with the same rank as the level of the monster you targeted. And then that is treated as an Exceed summon, and if you do equip this card you control to it as an equip spell. And then if this card is destroyed, you can add a Doomsday card from your deck to your hand. That effect is really solid. It allows you to get to your other Doomsday card we're playing, which is Doomsday Destruction, which basically just targets a Doomsday Ixies you control, equips it to it, and while it's equipped, your opponent cannot add cards from their main deck to their hand except by drawing them. So this card is a really nasty floodgate that's super easy to set up due to Power Patron Doomsday, and it's even easier to set up because of our Doomsday Xyz monsters. The first is Deactorus, which is a rank 4, which on special summon can destroy a Doomsday card in your hand or face-up field, and then can destroy a monster on the field. That effect's not bad, but it's not the reason we're playing this card. The reason we're playing this card is because it's being used as material for the new Doomsday 13 over Graflario. This card can Xyz using any Doomsday monster, and then you can detach a material from this card to add a Doomsday spell trap from your deck to your hand, then you can destroy a card on the field. Not only is ranking up on top of the Doomsday monster we summoned with our Power Patron going to pop the Power Patron and then use its effect to search, but we also get another search with the Graflario. So it's pretty much impossible to keep us off of the Doomsday Destruction unless you droll us. But it means that we get to guaranteed pretty much end on Doomsday Destruction, which is a really scary floodgate. And then onto our non-engine, we've got 3 Fallen and the Virtuous, which is just a really good quick play, which this deck doesn't have a super tight extra deck, so you honestly have room for this card, which is crazy. It also gets a Synchro or Fusion into your extra deck at will, which is also nice. And then we have 1 Called by the Grave, 1 Crossout Designator, and then a ton of hand traps. We've got 2 Nibiru, 3 Fualos, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 3 Ghost Spell and Haunted Mansion, 1 Effect Veiler, 3 Droll and Lockbird, and 3 Imperm. We are on 23 non-engine in this list, which if you wanted to bump this deck down to a lower card count, you could cut some of the non-engine, but I really wanted to have a high non-engine count, especially because you have a lot of starters, so I thought it would be fine. Really, really scary stuff, ton of non-engine, almost half the deck is non-engine, so going second is not a problem for this deck, especially when it has in-engine stuff to do so. And then onto our extra deck, we've got 1 Beyond the Pendulum. I'll explain this card for people who haven't read it before. It takes 2 effect monsters, including a Pendulum, and if this card is linked summon in the extra monster zone, you can pay 1200 life to add a Pendulum from your deck to your hand, but for the rest of this turn, until you Pendulum summon, you cannot activate monster effects, and the effects of cards in your Pendulum zone are negated. So typically, you'll be linking off one of your monsters and one of your Power Patron Pendulum monsters, and then going chain 1 Beyond the Pendulum, and then chain 2 that Power Patron monster to get another scale into your hand, and then or get a card that gets you a scale like the Power Portal, and then Beyond the Pendulum will get you your other scale. So this is really, really important for setting your scales up, and this allows you to do combos you really wouldn't be able to do otherwise. And then we've got 1 Varudras, which is a generic rank 10 Omni Negate, which this card's crazy, and most of our monsters are level 10, so this card's super easy to make. Then we've got the Armage Non-Finito, the Deactorus, the Griflario, and moving on to cards we haven't talked about, the IP Masquerena, which is just a card that you can make sometimes on your end board, and it's nice to have. Then we've got the new card coming out in Blazing Dominion, Lahamu, the Messenger of Sacred Scripture. While this links summon cards in the field, you can normal summon a level 5 or higher monster without tributing, and during the main phase, you can quick effect normal summon a level 5 or higher dark monster. So this card basically lets you get out any of your Power Patrons from the hand for free, which is really nice, and can come up on occasion. And then during the end phase, you can reveal any number of monsters in your hand and place them on the bottom of the deck in any order, then draw the same number of cards. That's a not bad effect, but it's definitely not super necessary. Usually the other monster we're going to have in our hand are hand traps, but it's not terrible to be able to shuffle back like extra copies of Fualos that you drew, so it's not terrible. It's obviously a nice effect to have. And then we got 1 copy of SP Little Knight for our IP, and because SP is just a generally good card. And then our last extra deck monster we haven't talked about is Garura, the Wings of Resonant Life. We're not running Super Poly for this card. We're running this because it's our fusion target for our Non-Finito. In order to activate the Non-Finito effect, we need to actually have a monster we can fusion summon. And Finito and Nerva are both Earth illusions, therefore making them applicable with Garura. So that is the only reason we're running Garura. Then we're going to move on to a bunch of other things you could play and cards I want to talk about. The first is Heavy Metal Foe's Electromite, which is an unbelievable link monster for this deck. I'm like scared for the OCG in terms of how good this deck's going to be because of this card. On link summon, this card can add a Pendulum monster from your deck to your extra deck face up, so this just triggers any of your Power Patrons for free, which is insane. It can target a face-up card you control, destroy it, then you can add a face-up Pendulum from your extra deck to your hand. This allows you to get whatever you put into your extra deck, but also it can trigger your other Power Patrons that you put into the scale, which is also crazy. And then if a card in your Pendulum zone leaves the field, you can draw a card, so you also just get to go +1 for no reason. This card is so broken in this deck in particular. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't ban Electromite for this deck in particular, or maybe they'll try to sell this deck more and bring Electromite back. That's what I'll cope on. After that, we've got the Elvenotes engine, which is definitely an option in this deck. If you wanted to play Elvenotes Power Patron, you absolutely could. Power Patron can absolutely bridge into the Elvenotes cards by using Elvenotes Power Patron and Medius to make your Synchro 7 Power Patron. And then Elvenotes Power Patron on Synchro will search an Elvenotes card so you can get into the rest of your Elvenotes engine. Elvenotes also get a really strong card in this set called Elvenotes Regina, which is like it lets you do everything. It's a turn 0 play. It lets you E-Telly out guys. It adds itself back so you could do this effect every turn. It's a broken card. But the Elvenotes are really strong. It's definitely the strongest of the 3 lore archetypes. So You could totally do it. It might be the best way to play this deck. Who knows? And then the other thing you could do is play the Archmage cards, or more Archmage cards, I should say, in order to make Archmage Deactorus, which is an Omni Negate while you control 3 or more different monster types on the field, which is super easy because this deck is mostly different monster types. Really nice card to theoretically add to the end board. I just thought the Doomsday stuff was more impactful and easier to set up. Then we've got some other options. We've got Fiendsmith Engraver, which is showing that the Fiendsmith stuff is super easy to access in this deck. Medius can summon the Elvenotes Power Patron, those two can then turn into Armades, and Armades is a light fiend Synchro 5, so that gets you in a Fiendsmith combo. Thea Realize by itself also gets you in a Fiendsmith combo by changing a monster into a light fiend. So Fiendsmith is pretty easy to add into this deck if you wanted to, and you do have the extra deck space for it. I mean, you could cut like the Fallen and the Virtuous and like the Lahamu and then have enough room to do, like a Caesar line. It's pretty good. And then we've got a bunch of low scale cards because our Beyond the Pendulum line is usually going to have us search a low scale. So having a low scale to search that isn't one of our power patrons can be really powerful. The first and least required things for it is Wind Unicorn Parallel the Draco Slayer. We don't know when we're going to get this card in the TCG, but when we do, it's a pretty solid option, since if you have a card in your other Pendulum Zone, you can special summon this card from the Pendulum Zone, and while this, and on the field, this card can quick effect target a Pendulum monster card you control and a card your opponent controls and return them to the hand. So this is like a really easy interruption you can set up, and it's pretty free. This is just a really nice option you could throw into the deck if you wanted to make your end board just a little bit stronger. We've then got some other engines you could run. The first is the Valance engine, which will have you searching Shinonome, which is a 1-card combo for Valance. And these cards are really interesting. They put out a lot of Link material and potentially Xyz material. I'm just not sure what you should be doing with them, but I think there is something here. The Valance cards are not bad. They're all extenders. The only big downside is that they lock you into only Valance monsters, except from the extra deck, for the rest of the turn after you use their scale effects. So they have to be the last thing you do, and they kind of want a lot of your board so they can move around on the board, since that's their whole gimmick. They're weird cards, but I would love to see somebody really break these open as a potential option in this deck. Then we have my main man Mistva, who is a low scale and a 1-card starter for Ryuge. So theoretically, you could turn any Power Patron starter into Power Patron combo plus Ryuge combo, which would be like 10 interruptions or something. I haven't looked into it, but I'm sure it's very strong. Obviously, though, that includes the fact that you're going to have to play a ton of bricks for the Ryuge engine, which is obviously the downside that always comes with playing the Ryuge engine. So, it's cool and very interesting and fun. Do it at your own risk, After that is Chef de Nouvelle. This card can be played in like a 4-card engine that allows you to summon Balegril de Nouvelle, which on Ritual Summon will let you negate all face-up cards your opponent controls, and then if it was summoned with a Nouvelle monster, which it will be because you're going to summon it with Chef, you get to tribute all monsters your opponent controls, so it's a board wipe. And then you can target an attack position monster on the field and then tribute it, and then summon a Hungry Burger from your deck, which there's a retrade version of Hungry Burger that isn't terrible, so you can run that instead. So you basically only have to run 2 bricks for the engine. So if you wanted to run like a minimal amount of bricks and have like a really strong end board option, this is not a bad way to do it. This card's also a light fiend, so you could use it with Fiendsmith as well, which is very funny. After that, we've got a bunch of cards that up the consistency of the deck. The first is the Soulful Chord engine. Soulful Chord Promoa and Soulful Chord Happiness are both 1-card starters for this deck, so they're really, really solid options if you wanted to add more starters into the deck and just generally more extension. After that, we've got 1 Foolish Burial, which is just another copy of Thea Realize, effectively. We've got 1 copy of Archmage Vandalism Assault. This card could be used to search Medius, since on activation it just searches Medius from the deck. And then we have a Duelist Alliance, which if there is a card in the Pendulum Zone, you can add a Pendulum monster or a Pendulum monster or a Pendulum spell trap in your deck to your hand. So if you have a Pendulum in your Pendulum Zone, you can use this to search Pendulum Treasure, which obviously goes full combo. So bunch of nice consistency tools, bunch of nice theoretical engines you could run, a bunch of other things you can do. This deck has a ton of options, and I'm sure this isn't even all of them. I cannot wait to see what people crack with this deck, but let's get into the first combo. So this combo is going to be a 1-card Medius combo. We're going to normal summon Medius the Pure and use it to summon our Nervado from the deck. Nervado is going to use its effect to summon Nerva from the X deck, and then Nervado is going to summon Zagrado from the deck. Those two are going to link into Beyond the Pendulum. We're going to go chain 1 Zagrado, chain 2 Beyond. Beyond's going to search your Elvinode's Power Patron and, your Junordo, and then the Zagrado is going to search the Unleashed Power Patron Portal Terminus. Terminus is then going to send the Junordo, another copy of Junordo from the deck to the grave, and it's going to search Vidrium from the deck. We're then going to scale Junordo and scale Vidrium, and then we're going to pend back our Zagrado and Nervado. We're then going to use the Junordo effect since we summoned a Power Patron to draw 2 and discard 1. We're then going to trigger the Junordo to add our Power Patron portal back to our hand. This is going to turn on Non-Finito, so we can summon it using the Nervado, and then trigger Non-Finito to set Recapture from our deck. We can then use the effect of Vidrium to summon back the Junordo in our grave, and then it will search our copy of the field spell. We can then turn the Junordo and the Zagrado on our field into Varudros. If you wanted to, you could also banish 6 more cards off the top of your deck to set up, or not 6 more cards, but you could banish 3 more cards off the top of your deck to use Junordo's effect in order to summon Junora from your extra deck. This gives you a Synchro, Fusion, and Ixies into rotation, so on the next turn you will be able to summon the Vidrium. We're going to use Vidria to reveal the Jupiter in our extra deck to summon the Power Patron Doomsday from our deck. We also have to banish the one of the cards we drew off of our Junordo earlier. And then we're going to use Medius' effect to shuffle back Beyond the Pendulum to summon itself from the grave. We're then going to use Power Patron Doomsday to turn the Medius into Deactorus. Then we're going to turn Deactorus into Graflario. That's going to pop the Power Patron Doomsday, which allows us to search another copy of Zagrado from the deck for follow-up. And then we can use Graflario to search the Doomsday Destruction out of our deck. We'll then set the Doomsday Destruction. And now on our opponent's turn, we've got the Doomsday Destruction, which is a floodgate against our opponent. We've got the Recapture, which is a monster negate. We've got the Non-Finito, which can quick fuse on our opponent's turn, which will trigger Nerva to blow up our opponent's entire board. And we've got the Varudros as an Omni negate. Obviously, this is a really, really, really powerful board. Really scary stuff. This is just going to show how the Nerva interaction works. But yeah, this is really strong off of a 1-card combo. This is 1, 2, 3, 4 really powerful interruptions. Every single one of these interactions are really high quality. And of course, we're on 23 non-engine, and we drew 2 cards. So we are going to likely have like 3 to 4 hand traps in our hand after all of this, which is unbelievable. I feel like people just didn't know how to combo with this deck, and that was the reason they thought the board for this deck was pretty weak. I would argue this is pretty insane. This is really, really tough to crack. So that's been the guide. I hope you all enjoyed. If you want, I could honestly later make a much bigger breakdown of this deck. I think this deck's super cool, and I'm really excited for it. I don't think I've been this excited for an archetype since Ryuge. So if you guys want like a bigger video where I go over a ton of different combos you can do, a ton of different variants for this deck, I could make like the Valance variant and the Ryuge variant, maybe some other Pendulum variants as well. Let me know. I would love to do so. This deck is so cool, so interesting, and I hope you all enjoyed. I will see you all next time. Goodbye.